Hello, everybody, and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am the Outback Al.
I'm Chibi Noob.
And I'm NV Jitters.
And we're here. We're not doing our tops anymore because we finished that up last week. We're moving on to other things. We got a couple things coming out today and coming up pretty soon that are going to be new. It's a lot of fun. This week we're doing Star Wars Visions, the 9 shorts that came out from multiple anime studios on Disney. Envy, you, I think, are probably the biggest Star Wars fan amongst us. Why don't you take it from here?
Sure. So, when obviously ever since I became an anime fan, I said, wouldn't it be cool if we actually got a Star Wars anime? The closest thing was that 2D Gendy Tartakovsky series from 2003. But
solid fucking
now
series.
but now it's official. We got an official Star Wars anthology series, and let's just get right into it. So, Episode 1, The Duel, is made by a studio called Kamikaze Doga. I think I pronounced that right. And they haven't really done a lot of work. They've mainly done, in-between stuff for animation companies. Their biggest claim, other than the movie Batman Ninja a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah, that does... Yeah, no.
But they also did the CGI for the first 3 JoJo OPs from, and to Blood the Stargirls do Crusaders.
You know what? I'll say that. That does seem familiar.
So, basically, this short called The Duel, they don't really give you a lot of context for the world. So basically I had to look this up because there's a book that's coming out next month that further expands upon this world. Basically, in this alternate universe, the Jedi serve the Empire, and then a long time ago, a group of Jedi wanted their own free will, basically, and they rebelled and became the Sith. And the Sith are pretty much like wandering samurai. They have different clans. But then one day the Jedi pretty much murdered all but a few of the Sith clans. And so the main character, whose name is Ronin, because he's a loner.
Because he's a Ronin?
So he pretty much is on his own with his little droid. And, this wandering group of marauders terrorizes a whole village, and
I don't know that they're wandering. I think they're just like a group that's kind of just living in that area, kind of exploiting everybody. I think they've pretty much just set up shop.
So it pretty much evolves around they terrorize the village, then the Empire comes out, fights with them a little bit, and then it basically revolves around the leader of the Marauder group, a Sith, fighting Ronin, a Sith in the titular duel. So I guess my first question would be, what did everyone think of this short?
Gave me some serious Seven Samurai vibes, minus 6 of those samurai. I was gonna say Yojimbo a little bit, which is another Kurosawa movie. I recommend both. Seven Samurai is a little long. It's one of those 2-part things. But, I think, they're missing the element from Yojimbo of, having the 2 warring factions fighting against each other and him kind of being in the middle of it. But in either case, you got kind of I guess not in the case of Seven Samurai, but, a sort of nameless protagonist who just kind of rolls into town, stumbles upon something that he's like, well, this isn't right, and kind of just ends up doing something about it. I'm a fan of these kinds of stories, and I think that it lends itself very well to the Star Wars aesthetic and universe. So
George Lucas has gone on record and said he was very inspired by the guy who made Seven Samurai, that director's name,
Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah, he was very inspired by him. So it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yep. I think he said the same thing about the prequels in regard to the sequel, in regard to the original trilogy, but we'll leave that for another discussion.
I thought this duel was okay. I like the style. I like how they were going for an old school, 50s Japanese movie, old school kind of. If I didn't tell you the description, though, you probably lost on the world of this short. So
I don't think so. I actually think
really.
It's pretty self-explanatory. This is not an uncommon story. I think you could look at a number of different samurai movies. The other one that comes to mind is there was a series called Wolf and Cub, and it was a samurai who I think he was a father kind of carting around his kid in this baby carriage, and he just kept ending up fighting people on bridges and other sorts of things. It was just Yeah, it's just sort of like in that sort of Ronin era after like samurai were kind of outlawed, and I think you're kind of seeing the equivalent here. It's not like hard to figure out what's going on too much, which is kind of
Yeah.
the great thing about a lot of these shorts. You can just kind of jump in. They're very simple stories, but they're told well.
I mean, obviously the big thing going for this short was its animation style. Like, it's the only one that uses full CG, and I think it for what they were trying to do, I think it worked well for me personally. I don't know about you two.
I think it worked. I can definitely see the Batman Ninja thing and the JoJo thing, but I think this worked better than both of those, and I think that might just be like an experience thing that they're having, because the JoJos are they're short sections, of course, so it doesn't really matter that much, but they didn't always look the most fluid back in the day, like around 2012 when they were premiering that stuff, and Batman Ninja at times is a little janky. I have my issues with Batman Ninja. It's a very fun movie. But it's got a number of issues from both a lore element and an animation element. But here I think it worked really well. I think it was especially was helpful because they were kind of going with, like you said, the old 1950s kind of style, but they're also kind of going with like a sort of sketched manga style a little bit. There's a lot of line work on everything that I feel like adds a whole lot of like sort of like a pulp magazine kind of thing, an aesthetic to it that I think works in its favor because it kind of hides maybe some of the less fluid elements of the CG.
Yeah, Chibi, what did you think of the short?
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna just preface everything that, you're about to hear from me about all of these shorts with the little thing of...
You hated
'cause
all of them. Oh my god.
No, I
No,
was
I know.
watching it on my Roku device. So,
Oh.
I couldn't change the language. So, everything was in Japanese with no subtitles.
Oh.
So, I have no
Damn.
context for anything of what happened other than the visuals. So, I'm
I-
basing everything that I saw off of the visuals.
I'm gonna be real. I might have actually hated that experience. I mean, that being said, I don't know that it's gonna be that hard. Like you said, this was not that hard to figure out what was going on, even without context, though. Right?
Yeah, so here's the thing though, and I'm just gonna say this now that this is one of the few shorts that actually reminded me of something Star Wars. Because most of them I did not.
I kind of
Like,
feel what you're saying.
They lacked the Star Wars vibe for me for a lot of these other ones, but I'll get into that a bit later once we start talking about the other ones. And granted, that might just have to do with the fact that I couldn't understand any of it, but I think it was also partly the anime style that I think kind of threw me a little bit.
I think I feel what you're saying. I don't know that none of the other ones had it. The other one that felt the most Star Wars in the traditional sense of it kind of was The Elder.
Yeah, that one I definitely felt was the one that I thought went into it the most, aside
Yeah.
from this one.
But
And
yeah.
this one just even reminded me more of like, it reminded me of The Mandalorian.
Well, yeah. Again, we go
With
back to
that one episode with Ahsoka.
Yeah. Like, you get into that whole... And, like, Mandalorian's probably a great example. It's a space western, which, you know, Lucas was working off of Kurosawa, who all of his samurai movies were based on American westerns. And those those samurai movies were eventually remade into American westerns, and it's a back and forth, it's a cycle kind of thing. And eventually you end up with, like, these space samurai things with this Star Wars stuff, but they are essentially... at their core, like American Western films
Yeah.
in a lot of elements. And I think, like, this one and The Elder probably had the most Western vibe, which kept it in most with Star Wars, I think.
Yeah, the one with, we'll get into this one later, the twins, that just literally reminded
just
me of
straight
Kill
up
la Kill in
anime.
space. It was
that
Kill la
was-
Kill in space.
We'll get to that one. I got some thoughts on that.
Okay. But anyway, so yeah, like visually, this was like, the duel was very beautiful. I really liked it. I liked the voicing. Couldn't understand any of it, but I felt like the voice actors that they picked for the characters were great.
Yeah, I watched it in English too.
Same.
In English, the main character was Ryan T, who I looked up his filmography. He was Drift King from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and
Ooh. Oh.
and the girl was Lucy Liu.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dang, I didn't even realize.
I looked it up. Like I said, I did a lot of research for this afterwards.
I have not watched Lucy Liu in something for a while. Well, you know what? That's not true. Kill Bill Volume 1 was on TV probably not too long ago. There's also an anime section in there where she's an animated character.
Yeah, so those are my thoughts on the duel. Again, everything is going to be kind of based on the art for all of this. So,
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a bad thing. I mean, this is kind of a like you can have a pure aesthetic element to your.
In all honesty,
stuff.
they could have made this a silent film, and they probably could have worked too.
Well,
yeah,
for Chibi
I
it
honestly
was.
feel like that would have really worked. But yeah, I think the anime styles for a lot of these are kind of throwing me off. I don't know. Anyway, continue.
Well, moving on to short number 2, Tatooine Rhapsody. It was animated. It was made by Studio Colorido, who did the movie that we watched last year, A Whisker Away, as well as Penguin Highway and Burn the Witch. Those are their most famous things. And it starred, well, in English, the main character was voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it's a Padawan
I'm normally very good at recognizing voices from people. I was not recognizing any of these people.
Well, like I said, I looked it up. Yeah, and he stars as a guy named Jay, who was an Order 66 Jedi. He was a Jedi who survived Order 66, and, well, what do you do to hide? You obviously join a band, of course. And so they follow their adventures of them joining a band, but then years later, the Hutt member of the band, who I guess is either related or part of the same clan as Jabba the Hutt, he's got a bounty on his head,
It
and
could probably
Boba
be
Fett
some
shows
level
up.
of both. I
Yeah,
think.
and Boba Fett shows up and pretty much says, "You're coming with me," and so basically, they're depressed for a little bit, all kinds of hootenanny, but then they pretty much make a deal with Jabba to say, you know what, before you kill him, let's have one final performance. And so they have the titular Tatooine Rhapsody on the same place where they had the pod racing scene from episode 1. And then Jabba likes their music so much that, you know what, I'm not going to kill you. Instead, I'm going to be your bookie from now on. I'm going to be your agent. And that's
bookie is a very different thing. Let me say that.
Okay, he becomes their agent.
Yeah, manager or something like that. He owns them now, so I guess better to be owned than executed, I suppose.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the trailer, I looked up the brief descriptions for all the shorts beforehand. This was definitely the one I was looking forward to the least, and yeah, it probably was one of my least favorite out of the shorts.
I thought it was okay. I don't know that Star Wars lends itself to the chibi style that often, and it might just be a personal preference. I don't normally go for a whole lot of chibi type anime. Again, it was okay. I don't think it was bad by any means. It was just sort of like middle of the road a little bit.
Yeah,
the song was fun. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. I really don't have a lot to say about this one, to tell you the truth.
I'm honestly interested to hear what you have to say. Yeah, because you probably didn't get any of the context of anything.
I mean, I got the general gist that, like, he was on the run and, like, that he was in a band and then Jabba the Hutt. And, I mean, I kind of got the gist of what was going on, but I was just, the art style threw me. I was very unenthused. I think, like, had it all just been one art style, I feel like I could have gotten through a lot of these a lot better, but
I mean, that's the problem when you have literally 6 different anime studios all doing different things. You're gonna have...
I know, but it did not lend itself to me like in an enjoyable sort of way, because it all felt like I was just watching like 25 minutes of like a bunch of different things, and none of it really sat with me for a while. Like, it's not like I really got to enjoy anything. I just went right on to the next one. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, we'll definitely go into our general thoughts at the end, but I felt like, except for a few of them, I hate to sound like this because it makes me sound condescending, but a lot of times these shorts kind of reminded me of the old Star Wars fan films that you would find on YouTube, where they're done well, but they basically just put you in the middle of a world with like no context, and they just kind of expect you to understand it. But because they're so short, you really don't have a lot of time to develop your characters and develop the world, so they just kind of go one out ear and out the other. Again, I'm not trying to sound too condescending. There's a few shorts that I think do enough world building that could have even branched out into their own stories, but for some of them, I kind of felt like this was kind of like, you just want to do some cool shit with lightsabers and, the Force and that kind of stuff. And you know what? If I was making Star Wars, I'd probably do that too, so I can't really blame them.
Yeah, again, you have the first one, which is probably the kind of story that most of them should have been probably like working with. Just very short, easy access, kind of like in and out. You can make a short film out of this kind of thing. Like, I don't know that this one had a ton of world building per se that we hadn't seen from the movies already. Maybe like the idea of a band, but yeah, it's just sort of like one of those.
I don't know. So, it does have a band in like the first movie, the Cantina.
Yeah, who they make a cameo.
Yeah. So I guess bands in Star Wars are not unheard of, but it's that kind of band, I guess, was a little unexpected.
Yeah.
It also makes you wonder too. Okay, you're a Jedi. You're trying to hide.
Okay, was he a Jedi? He was a Padawan. He was like in training at best.
Well,
I don't even know that he can.
You're still considered a Jedi if you're a Padawan.
Well, they were nipping those ones in the butt with more than anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not even sure he can use the Force at this point. So, Jedi's a bit of a relative term.
Well, I guess we'll move on to Episode 3, The Twins by Studio Trigger. I don't think they need any introduction. We've all seen at least one show by them, so
yeah.
Pick your favorite. When I saw the trailer and I saw that Studio Trigger was making this, it was one of the shorts that I was looking forward to the most because Studio Trigger, if they're known for anything, they're known for over-the-top bombastic animation. Just look at Promare. And, it was Promare. It was,
it was the least Star Wars thing that I think I saw.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it was probably my least favorite.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, too. Yeah, I got the cool animation. Like, the whole lightsaber... I'll go over the story first. It takes place... In this short, it takes place in the sequel trilogy era. And... Because I read up on it. And basically, you have two twins born of the dark side. Care and Am. Care in English is voiced by Neil Patrick Harris. And Am in English is voiced by Alison Brie of... was she in Community?
Yeah, it's Annie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you could definitely tell it was Neil Patrick Harris, though. Like, that voice was Neil Patrick Harris. So basically, they are trained in the dark side, and they have a giant kyber crystal weapon, which is literally two Star Destroyers daisy-chained together. And, of course, it's a planet-destroying super weapon. So, one day, Care...
Do you think this is where the Palpatine got his idea for the Star Destroyers with the Death Star lasers on them for that last movie that no one had really put any thought into?
Oh,
Maybe.
Actually, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. None of these shorts are canon. I don't care about that, but they said that none of these shorts are officially canon.
It's just interesting that there might actually have been a precedent for this one.
Yeah. But basically, one day, Care steals his half of the kyber crystal. And
no, he steals the whole thing. There's only one kyber crystal, and it's in the giant space laser.
Oh yeah. So then basically he steals it, and so basically it's a giant chase at first to decide to see to get the crystal, and then they go outside where they can totally breathe in space the entire time because that's
I got issues with this.
Yeah.
And then basically from there it's just Studio Trigger going nuts, just putting kyber crystal in your suit to make yourself General Grievous on steroids.
Can we
it's kill
point
a
out,
kill.
Yeah,
it's literally kill a kill.
Her suit is like, you look at it close enough, it's a sailor uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
the kyber crystal is the fibers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then basically you figure out at the end, Care had visions of Am dying because the suit crystal corrupted her, and so that's the reason why he broke away. And the main reason why I didn't like this short is because, like I was mentioning earlier, they to me they didn't give enough motivation or depth for Care to basically we never saw him want to do that. It's just, oh, he's stealing it. He feels this way out of nowhere. It just felt kind of, and again, it's a 16-minute short. I know they can't spend all their time developing the characters, but like I think a little bit more would have been helpful because you go from they're twins born to the dark side to do nothing but take over the galaxy, and next minute one of them is betraying the other, but for good intentions. Like there was no setup to it for me.
I watched this with Yin and I kind of mentioned it to them. This one felt like the most like cliche. This is what everyone thinks anime is.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like it's got and like not all of these are complaints. But it's got the most over-the-top action, the most ridiculous idea of physics or everything like that. You know, I'm normally down for all of that because that's what makes Studio Trigger a lot of fun. But, like, they also coupled it with, like, this is a very short format, but you're also kind of putting in vague, navel-gazy philosophy a little bit. That is just kind of, like, existential, like, what are we talking about here? This is not really the format where you're going to have enough time to explore any of this sort of thing. And it's like, oh, my sister, and like we're both two halves of the same evil but good, and blah, and like it just goes back and forth, and I'm just like, oh my god, you are the fake anime that like cartoon shows show to kind of make fun of anime a little bit.
Yeah.
That's not always a bad thing. Here it's just kind of like, okay, you wanted to have some crazy trigger action sequences. I don't know that you needed Star Wars to do that. I honestly think that maybe Star Wars kind of held this back a little bit. Like, I genuinely think this could have been a scene in just a normal Trigger show where
Honestly,
they maybe could have expanded more on it. And
I mean, we'll get to it later, but like their second short they did, The Elder, it was probably the most subdued out of all the shorts.
I mentioned
or at least
that
one of the most.
I liked it a lot. I'll get there, but yeah. Can I talk about... Well, Chibi, do you want to hit your thing? I need to talk about space afterwards.
So, again... could not understand any of this. So I was just, again, going off of visuals. Again, it's Trigger. It's really nice looking. It's great. I did love the animation, because it's just
it's
awesome
Trigger
to watch. Yeah. Again, as you're mentioning, physics and space and not making a whole lot of sense. Another thing is like, all I could picture when I was watching this was Ryuko and Satsuki and literally just Kill la Kill in space, as I've been saying.
Part of it in space.
Yeah.
Like, this is already... We gotta saw this a little bit.
Well, it actually, like, it's just... I don't know. It's like it took place the entirety in space. The entirety of it. Not just, like, that last little bit.
This short spent as much time as Trigger probably did in space.
Yeah, it did.
It's Kill la Kill.
It's ironic, too, because one of the biggest jokes about Trigger is, okay, when is their shows going to turn into aliens or space? Because it usually happens with their shows. Not often, but a lot of times it does.
Space Patrol Luluco is one of those shows.
Kill la Kill, Space Control Luluco, Darling in the Franxx, most notoriously.
So, yeah. Again, I wasn't really seeing anything original in there. You know what I saw? I think I saw a deleted Kill la Kill scene.
More or
that
less.
was it.
This is like, yeah, I think they just like, hey, maybe Ryuko and Satsuki had a brother.
Maybe.
I guess this is what that would have been like.
No, I think this is what it would have been. It's if Satsuki stayed on the antagonistic side until the very end.
Okay.
I feel like that is what that would have been.
So you said you had a rant about space.
Yeah, no, I have like a little bit of a like how all these people are dead 18 times over. Like, okay, first off, no helmets in space. I'm realizing like it. At first, I was like, well, that's dumb. You're both dead. Then I was like, well, fuck. Carrie Fisher survived space through the
Yeah.
Force. Fine, there's a precedent for this, I guess. But it's like, neither of them are wearing helmets in space. They're talking, not possible. They're breathing, not possible. Any of that crap. What bugs me about it, though, because they're clearly trying to make it like, oh, this is not a big deal. Why was the droid that came out to save her from space wearing a helmet?
For a joke.
Yeah,
The
that
droid-
actually really bothered me too.
Why
a
does
joke.
the droid need to breathe? The droid doesn't need to breathe.
For a joke. It was all for a joke.
What joke?
What?
I'm sorry. What was the joke?
That the human is not wearing a helmet that it should, and the
It's
droid...
not a joke. It's dumb. I don't...
I mean,
that-
a
no.
joke can be dumb.
Also, why wasn't there more destruction after he shot himself through hyperspace outside
I mean, they
of
did the Holder maneuver, basically, so...
Yeah, which,
Yeah.
very cool. The first time I saw that in Last Jedi, that's like the one scene I think I actually liked from that movie. But, should have been way more destructive, I think. But, yeah. Everyone's dead 18 times over. By the way, he rode a spaceship. Rode the spaceship. Not in the spaceship. Rode the spaceship through hyperspace and crashed into a planet. And he's still there and not vaporized. And that ship is still there. I'm gonna call so much bullshit.
Yeah, I think when Trigger got the permission to do 2 shorts, they did
one serious and one not.
Yeah, one just go batshit insane. The other, it's like, okay, now we're actually going to put some fine tuning into this.
I know I'm sounding like I'm complaining a lot. It was fun. This is a fun fight. But at the same time, like, there are certain rules for Star Wars that maybe should be respected a little bit. Like, it's not complete nonsense space action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, moving on to episode 4, The Village Bride. This was my personal favorite out of the 9 of them. It was made by Kinema Citrus, who most notably made Made in Abyss and Rising of the Shield Hero. So, and it follows another Order 66 survivor Jedi whose name is just F. She's, on the run.
Pay your respects.
She does her own thing, and she gets a call from a guy named Valko, who's voiced by, I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who played Shang Tsung in the first live-action Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh God! Oh, I forget his name too. He was Johnny Tsunami's grandfather.
Yeah, but he gets a call. He gets a call from a guy named. She gets a call from a guy named Valko, and he wants to help the people of this village, mainly that their princess is going to be taken away by a group of bandits because...
Sorry, hang on. Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa.
Okay, yep, that's his name. So these marauders, these bandits, are going to take away the princess of this village because they were originally going to take the leader as, collateral, but then she volunteers to, take his place, and she goes with her, I guess, boyfriend or lover across a trip.
Husband?
So, it's a very spiritual journey throughout the first half of the episode. It honestly reminded me a lot of a Miyazaki movie in a way.
Yeah.
And then eventually all shit breaks loose because the Marauders, the planet was once controlled by the Separatists during the Clone Wars, but when the Empire took control, the Marauders reprogrammed the battle droids, and eventually it leads to a fight because the princess's sister, wants to, fight back, and basically the Jedi F reveals herself, and she saves the day, basically. And the main reason why I loved this short the most was the music. Mainly the last battle. Holy shit, that fucking music just... that was easily my favorite track in all 9 shorts. The guy who made the music for this episode also made the music for Made in Abyss, and it shows because it's drop dead gorgeous. So I had a lot of fun with this short. Obviously it wears its inspirations on its sleeve for a lot of things, but I feel like this one, I think it set up its world well, and I wouldn't mind actually going back to this world and following the different adventures of, I guess, F the Jedi. But what did you guys think?
I feel like this one was kind of the more extended version of the duel, a little bit. It's basically the same concept, but kind of explored to a larger extent beyond just people attacking a village. Like, there is usually a bigger thing at play other than just, oh, give us your shit. It's like the people are trying to, like, hang on to power and do whatever else. We see that in a couple other shorts beyond this one and the duel. But yeah, which is, again, it's a very samurai movie kind of thing. There were a lot of samurai movies set in that sort of Ronin period where a lot of former samurai ended up becoming bandits and kind of tried to take over territory in a war in a country that wasn't as united at the time, and was a little easier to take over isolated and secluded territories. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing, and it works. I think you're right. I think there could be a larger story here, either with F or even the sniper guy that she was hanging out with. He's pretty interesting too. And
Yeah.
honestly, he probably did the most if we're just talking for that fight. It's kind of interesting. You have these like, and again, this was kind of like the duel in that I got to give most of the credit for winning that fight to the droid. Weirdly
Yeah.
enough, that droid went kamikaze on everybody. um, so I gotta, yeah, it's interesting.
So, I'm kind of on this one. Not that, like, F herself as a character wasn't, like, cool. She was very cool. I did like her a lot. Um, Again, no context for what's going on other than they're attacking a village, and obviously, like, given the title, she's a bride, and then the guy she's with is her fiance,
I think
whatever.
husband by the end of it, but yeah,
Yeah. And then, yeah, the sister and whatever. But I could have done without this story. I could have done with something else. I mean, because generally I got the gist, but it was not very, I guess, visually appealing to me. Like, I mean, it wasn't a bad thing to watch. Like, the animation's fine. It's just the fact that, like, I don't know, I feel like I would have preferred something a little more in the vein of a bit more action. This feels like it would have been, like, a filler sort of moral, like, kind of exploring episode if it
it
were in
was.
an actual series, but it's not. And I kind of felt like, I don't know, I just kind of felt empty watching it because I had no emotional attachment to any of it at that point. So, I don't know. It was meant for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said. This is a little bit like built for a larger story.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I was just too blindsided by the music because I was just listening to it and I was just like, "Holy shit!" But yeah, I can see what you mean. I can understand where you're coming from.
Again, I think this would be a good larger story. And I think like the world, like if given proper time to explore it a little more, because it does go into stuff about like nature and the villagers' relationship with the plants. Chibi, I realize you didn't get this part of it, but yeah, that could have been something to explore. Maybe they have a unique connection to the Force or something like that. That could have been an interesting to explore. Again, you don't have enough time to do it at this point, but hey, maybe a project for later or something like that. Could be cool.
Well, speaking of stuff that's that should be part of a larger story with a lot of interesting stuff, but also a lot of stuff setting up, that leads to Episode 5, The Ninth Jedi, made by Production
Yeah.
IG, which they've
This
made
was
Guilty.
definitely a setup for like a much larger thing.
I mean, Production IG, as far as their more famous stuff, they've made Guilty Crown, Psychopaths, the Ghost in the Shell series, the Haiku series, and they co-produced the first season of Fully Cooley with Gainax, but then they made the other two shows on their own, so
Hmm.
progressive and alternative. And I will explain the whole setup to you, Chibi, because I imagine this was the one that you probably didn't get the most because
Uh, I got the general gist of the swordsmith and giving the lightsabers to a bunch of people, but I was just like, that's not how this works!
well, again, it's their own version of Star Wars, so they took their own liberties. But
Ah.
basically the setup for this episode is it takes place years after the rise of Skywalker. So I guess Rey didn't succeed after all. But basically, in this version, there's a Margrave character who wants to restart the Jedi Order. So basically, in this universe, you can be a Jedi, but you don't have your lightsaber yet because lightsabers are rare to come by. And
Well,
so he,
they're like the technology and like the method of creating the sabers was lost. No one knows
yeah.
how to do it anymore. And
Well,
that's kind of
there's
like why,
yeah.
like, Chibi, I feel like your complaint is that like lightsabers are supposed to be made by the person who's going to use them, right?
Yeah, I guess like because I don't have context for what's
Yeah.
going on, like it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
essentially that Forge Master is definitely a former Jedi who was around during like the fall, so he still has some old knowledge that no one else does. I think that's why he's making them for everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and so basically the Margrave, he gathers what he appears to be former Jedi, to restart the Jedi Order, but the Sith are back and they're trying to stop this plan. And
Again, I
he
don't know that
base
they're former Jedi. I think they're new Jedi. And that's why they don't have the ability to make their own sabers. I think he's sensing or something that there is essentially new Force users, Force wielders who are learning about their connection to the Force, who are tending towards the light side, who could become full-fledged Jedi, but they don't have all the means to do so. And he has at least
yeah.
access to one, the guy who can make the sabers, and maybe some knowledge on his own to maybe help lead this progression back to the Jedi Order. So
Yeah.
again, it's definitely one of those like Luke Skywalker. Of course, he didn't make his own lightsaber in the beginning. He had no way to do so. But you eventually learn how through. Is it ever explained how he did it for Return of the Jedi? Did he just find the blueprints at Obi-Wan's old house?
Yeah, there was a deleted scene where
Okay.
he goes back to Obi-Wan's hut and he had basically Obi-Wan gave him basically an instruction manual and you see him finishing it.
Yeah, so these are a bunch of like essentially what he originally sent out were like to a bunch of masterless Jedi who were basically fumbling around in the dark for a while, and he's like, "Hey, I can give you a direction to go in."
And then basically, like you mentioned earlier, the sabersmith, he has a daughter named Kara who, she
Yeah, really
obviously is
keeping to
force
those Jedi
sensitive.
tenets, huh?
Yeah, she she obviously has the force, but what's interesting about lightsabers in this version of Star Wars is that the color of the lightsaber changes depending on your connection to it. So,
Well, no,
let's
that's specific to the Forge Saber guy because he said I've modified them to do that.
well, yeah, but yeah, for those lightsabers, and when he picks it up, it's blue. But then when Kara first picks it up, it's basically no color to it. It's kind of, I don't want to say clear, but it's,
It is a little clear, yeah.
Translucent.
yeah, and it can change its length. So basically, most of the episode is Kara trying to get those sabers back to the space station because hunters, hunters that were hired by the Sith are trying to, capture the lightsabers, and you go on Kara's journey, and the other supposed Jedi at the temple are wondering what the hell's taking the Margrave so long because this droid comes in and it's like the Margrave will be with you shortly. Just wait. Eventually, Kara eventually gets to the Jedi and she gives them all to them, and except for the one guy, they all turn red. Turns out they were the Sith all along, and so they fight, and Kara eventually connects further to the with the lightsaber. It turns green. All but one are killed because he sees the error of his ways. And eventually, it turns out the Margrave was inside the droid all along. And
Well,
yeah,
he
they
popped
eventually.
out before the fight.
Well, yeah, true, but and basically, it leads to them setting off on a journey to find more Jedi. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people. I've been reading ever since this came out on Wednesday. I've been seeing, people saying what are their favorite shorts, and most people I've read say that this is their favorite because it feels the most like a setup for like an actual series for a TV show they wouldn't mind watching. And
Definitely.
yeah, I could see that because it was the longest short, or at least the second longest. I think the Lop and Ocho might have been the longest, but this one felt like a 20-minute pilot episode for a TV show. And I guess for a pilot episode for something that's probably never going to get made, I thought it was pretty interesting.
I'm almost wondering, and this is pure speculation, but since Disney now owns all of Star Wars, and they now have a streaming service, and a lot of streaming services are getting very into anime now. I'm really wondering,
Yeah.
and they do have a history with anime. They do all the dubbing and distribution for Ghibli movies. I'm wondering if Disney might be looking to get into the licensing anime department. And I'm almost wondering if some of these were backdoor pilots.
Maybe this was a little bit of an experiment to see what would work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, they may try a different sort of Star Wars series with the same, somewhat of the same sort of setup, but maybe it'll be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So
I'm-
I read an interview with the creator and producer of this show, and they pretty much said that they're fans of anime. Most of the people in the head of the story group for Star Wars are anime fans, but they're worried how well people outside of Lucasfilm, like the general public, are of
Yeah, this is
anime,
definitely
because-
like we're dipping our toes in the water a little bit to see.
because obviously
see what's up.
anime is more mainstream than it's ever been, but there's still a divide for a lot of people. Because I remember reading a lot of people online saying, "Oh, I'm not really into anime. I think I'll pass." And it's just like, come on, give it a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I could certainly see a cross section of people being both Star Wars fans and anime fans. I mean, we're all here. But like, yeah, this could be a very like let's test the market kind of deal. Let's see what the feedback comes back as, and if one of them comes back really well, maybe we talk to the studio and see if we can get a full thing going. And honestly, this one does seem to be the most developed of all of them. Like some of the other ones, like especially we mentioned the Trigger one that the twins is definitely just a anime showcase of look what we can blow up. But yeah, this one kind of felt like fully fledged, and the one before it with the bride thing definitely felt like they were trying to build a world in that. So like, I don't know, if you're saying this one's probably the most popular, then I would say if anything's getting a tentative green light, it would probably be this one then.
Yeah.
Because like they even set up like you can make the argument that the other one's also good for this sort of thing, but it was very vague in how it went. It was very much just an encapsulated story. This one is like, this is the start. This is we're going on a journey now kind of thing. So yeah, this would probably be the easiest one to just like throw in there.
Yeah. And they even did say, the producer did say, if this goes over well, they would consider making a season 2 of Vision.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe get more studios, maybe have some of the other studios follow up on some of their shorts. So, it's like the What If show for Marvel. Except, I know it's not the same thing, but, like, they already got a second season planned for What If. So, like, maybe if this goes over well, they'll do a second season.
Interesting that we brought up Trigger before, because they had Little Witch Academia, the 30-minute short, that ended up getting a sequel and then a whole series afterwards. I'm wondering if they might be doing like something similar here, but like doing it with a bunch of different studios to see what fits for their particular demographics.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of doing something a little different, episode 6, 20B1, made by Science Saru. They made the Night is Short Walk-On Girl movie, Japan Sinks, Keep Your Hands Off Isaac-kun, which I think is a very underrated show, and of course, Devilman Crybaby. And it revolves around a droid.
Were they at all involved with Astro Boy? Because like that's the number one influence I could see here. The doctor, the kid, the general vibe, it's Astro Boy.
Yeah, 20B1 did. Yeah, he looks very similar to Astro Boy.
I got a little bit of beef with this one.
Well, let me talk about the plot first.
Yeah.
So 20B1, he wants to be a Jedi. Him and his professor, which it looks. I don't know if you guys ever played this, but he looks like Dr. Light from Mega Man. But basically, anyway, 20B1, he wants to be a Jedi, while the professor, he wants to, with his group of robots. He wants to create life to a planet, and they do the routine for so many years. And 2OB1 was like, I want to be a Jedi, and the professor's like, okay, well, try and go out there and try and connect with the Force. And he says, but never ever go into the basement ever.
That's a
Well,
perfect way to get him to do that.
yeah, eventually through a series of events, he goes down to the basement and finds an old ship. And because basically what the professor wants is, he says, you know what? Go find a kyber crystal, because kyber crystals were the ones that power the lightsabers. If you can find a kyber crystal, that means you're ready to be a Jedi. And he searches the entire planet, can't find a kyber crystal.
Because the
and
kyber crystals were the friends we made along the way.
Pretty much.
No,
the
they're not. It's the other metaphor.
I know. Kyber crystal is eventually filled to be in the basement, and the professor, who is a former Jedi on the run, or hiding, he tells 2OB1 to hide, and this takes place in between episodes 3 and 4, because an Imperial Inquisitor shows up. They were agents of the Empire that were tasked to help hunt down and destroy the Jedi after Order 66. We don't see what happens, but it's the Inquisitor kills the professor. Yeah.
We also didn't see Luke's aunt and uncle die, but we definitely know what happened.
Yeah. So a long time passes, assumably, and he rebuilds the professor's lab. He brings life to the planet, and he forges a lightsaber. And then the Inquisitor comes back, and they have a duel to the death. And 2OB1 wins, and he sets
Toby.
up. What?
You could just call him Toby.
I guess. And then Toby wins, and him and his robot pal decide to go off into the universe and help people, because that's what a Jedi does.
So I like the concept of Pinocchio, I want to be a real boy, but droids can't use the Force.
Yeah.
That the whole thing is like, it binds all living things, and technically speaking, as far as Star Wars goes, they've pretty much been like, droids aren't living, they don't use the Force. So unless he's some sort of bizarro, cybernetic, organic hybrid of some kind, Could he turn on a lightsaber? I'm sure. Can he use the Force? I sincerely doubt that. We're gonna have to see him in space to see if he needs a helmet or not. That'll prove it.
I mean, I guess it didn't bother me too much, because I knew going in that A, it wouldn't be canon, and B, that it's basically the studio doing whatever they wanted with all the free reign. So if they wanted to make a short about a droid wanting to become a Jedi, then sure, go for it. I guess this is the venue to do it in.
Like, I like the concept. It's just like, I don't know that he could ever do it.
Oh no, in real Star Wars, yeah, he would not be able to do it. He could turn on a lightsaber, but yeah, that's about it. Like, yeah.
You got thoughts, Chippy?
Honestly, I got bored.
Got bored.
I mean, it was cute, but, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it just kind of felt, again, not like Star Wars to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of a little bit of a problem that I've had with some of these, including the last one. And I guess it's because I've seen, like, the concept of, like, oh, there's this smith of weaponry. The smith ends up dying, and the child of said smith ends up having to take all these really special weapons to a team of people who really need them. Like, it's a concept that I've seen before that I'm like, okay, you're just doing this, but with Star Wars. Yeah. And I guess I got bored. And this one also, it's like, tiny robot wants to be a human.
Yeah, I said the Pinocchio thing, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it's cute, but, meh. Again, I guess when I thought about, like, a Star Wars anime kind of thing, I thought, I guess, it would get more Star Wars vibes. So,
Yeah, most of these were basically it's very Japanese inspired, but with Star Wars elements thrown in.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to episode 7, The Elder, the second Trigger short, and a lot more subdued. It takes place before episode 1 because I read up on it, and it involves Taijin, a Jedi Master, who was voiced by David Harbour, so yeah, Hopper,
Mm-hmm.
and his Padawan Dan. They're, exploring, and first off, I got to nitpick right out of the way. There was a shot where they were like, okay, coming into hyperspace now. It's like you're already in hyperspace. What did you just say? But anyway, him and his Padawan Dan, they sense a presence in the Force, a dark side presence. So they go to a planet, and Dan is all about wanting adventure. He's always wanted to get into a fight. He's a Padawan basically, and Taijin is the wise master. He's like, a Jedi doesn't crave adventure. It only wants to help people, yada, 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 that stuff. So they go to a village, and the village is basically under constant watch and terror from a old man, an elder. They don't know much about the elder,
I
but
don't know about
ships
that.
on
He
the.
he just showed up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
He,
even know that the village really knows anything about him. They're just like, yeah, that ship landed a little bit ago.
and the Tajin and Dan, they're wondering, well, is this guy Sith? Well, no, the Sith have been extinct for a long time, and but you can sense the dark side, and so they of course do the horror movie thing and split up, and sure enough, Dan comes across the Elder, who they're not really clear. He might have been a former Sith, or at least a very strong dark side user, and he obviously is more than a match for the Elder, and he gets his ass whooped. He doesn't die, which I don't know how you survive that, but whatever. And then,
Depends on how
uh,
deep the cut is.
I guess, and Taijin shows up, and well, he wins mainly because the Elder is ancient. He says that if he was in his prime, then it would have been a much different fight. And he's so old, in fact, that he literally turns to dust afterward. And yeah,
Give Dan a
that's
little credit. He helped. He threw a thing.
well, yeah, true, but
It was a good fight.
yeah, it was a good fight. Yeah, yeah. I think out of all the shorts, to me, this one probably felt the most traditional Star Warsy to me because you had, a very young master and apprentice relationship. Like it almost reminded me of Qui Gon and Obi Wan, or Obi Wan and Anakin in a way. The young, hotshot, impatient Padawan with the wise old mentor. You're going off on a mission to help a people. You have a dark side warrior, and you have a climactic duel at the end, and lessons about the dark side, lessons about patience, stuff like that. I think out of all, like this one, I think definitely could have fit the most in canon. Like it takes place between episode one. It takes place before episode one, and so you can have someone who used to be a Sith or someone who was once part of the Sith and is a dark side warrior. And yeah, so I didn't mind this one.
I definitely agree with the could fit in canon the most because like I've been looking at some of these kind of like going like that doesn't work, that doesn't make sense, this doesn't work in universe kind of thing, and this one definitely fits the most. And I think you're right, like it has like a lot of those elements of like that master mentor mentee kind of thing that we've seen in the other Star Wars films and a lot of other media in general. I mean, this is a very common dynamic, and again, I think like the duel, it's one of those like you have a very limited amount of time to tell your story, tell something simple and tell it well, and I think that's what they decided to do, and they did a good job with it because it's primarily set up for a confrontation between two different ideologies, even though we're not going deep into what either of them are. But again, I like the element of yeah, like early on, like the prequels and all that other sort of stuff, the Old Republic stuff, they were always kind of like, the Sith don't exist anymore. And then finding out that they are still around is kind of shocking to them. And like, you can... I kind of like the idea of like maybe seeing where this one goes as well. And yeah, just the idea. I'm always a fan of like ideas of like the Old Republic and stuff like that. And you can have like I mean, the prequels have good and bad in them, and I think one of the best parts was the development of like the Old Republic and the stuff pre-Empire, because I think it was like a lot of elements were very good world building, some were not so great, but I think there was a lot of good stuff that was being thrown around there, and I think this is a good place where they could have also like thrown in some more stuff if they decided to do more of it. Like whether it's like a whole series based on these two or around the particular events of this one, or a sequel, whatever. I think I'd be fine with more. I think I'd just be happy seeing more of this one.
Yeah. Out of all of them visually, like aside from the duel, this also reminded me a lot of like what I would expect from a Star Wars anime. I mean, again, I couldn't understand any of what was going on, but generally I liked it.
Yeah. And the animation for, Trigger was, again, very subdued. Like, it wasn't, kill a killer pro mare crazy. It was, very believable. It was very grounded. And it was kind of refreshing to see that because, again, the Twins was just them going ape shit. With this one, it was, almost like a traditional movie, almost, or traditional piece of media.
Mm-hmm. Felt like a samurai movie because this is the premise for a lot of samurai movies.
Yeah.
Star Wars is a space western and a samurai movie and a couple other like genres all like sort of smashed together a little bit that George Lucas was a fan of.
Yeah.
So it works.
Funny enough too, this is a little off topic, but I read an interview about George Lucas. Apparently, before he made Star Wars, he wanted to buy the rights to Flash Gordon to make a Flash Gordon movie.
Yeah.
And
it didn't work out.
It didn't work out, so that led him to make Star Wars. And obviously, we had the Flash Gordon movie years later. But just thinking about how Star Wars might not even exist if George got the rights to do Flash Gordon back in the day.
I don't know. You could look at a lot of different stories like that. There's 100 different ways things could have played out, but we get the timeline that we get. So.
Yep. And then, moving on to episode 8, Lop and Ocho. It's made by Geno Studio. They haven't made a lot of stuff. They made the Golden Kamui series, which I know Gav says he likes a lot. And they also made the show Pet. I don't know, did you two decide to watch that a couple years ago?
Which one?
Pet.
Pet?
I think we had planned on watching it, but it was only available on Amazon Prime. And then I don't think we ever really got access to it for some reason.
Was this when we were trying to do seasonal anime?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I vaguely remember that. I'm not sure if I remember what it was about.
It was something to do with, like, psychic energy, something or other, I think. But anyway.
But yeah, they're mainly known for the Golden Kamui series. This takes place during the Imperial era, so, between episodes 3 and 6, that era. And basically, there's this bunny creature named Lop. She's a slave from just another planet. She escapes, and she's taken and adopted by a man named Yashaburo with his daughter Ocho. And, Ocho is like, I want to adopt her. I want her to be my young sister. We're going to be a happy family. Well, cut to years later, and, the family's a little divided, to say the least. Yashaburo, he hates the Empire. He wants to drive him off his planet. He's basically Saw Gerrera from Rogue One. He would be labeled as a terrorist, doing all kinds of terrorist attacks, trying to drive the Empire off, whereas Ocho, she's like, you know what? The Empire might have its faults, but you know what? They bring prosperity, in air quotes. They are good for the development of the planet and for my clan. And so she's like, I still love you, Dad, is my family, but you're not seeing the bigger picture. And eventually, Ocho decides to fully join the Empire. And that's when Yashaburo brings Lop in. It's like, for generations, we've kept this fairly heirloom throughout the years, and I knew what it was going to be as soon as he said it. But it was a sword that is a lightsaber, and it was first brought here by a Jedi years ago. He died, but we continued on his teachings. It's been passed on between family members for generations, and you're my daughter, even if you're not blood. You're my adopted daughter, so I'm going to give you the lightsaber, and I'm going to pass on what I know. And so he goes on and tries to attack Ocho to stop her, and he loses because he's not really willing to fight her. But then Lop comes in, and Lop and Ocho have a giant fight, and again, Lop attacks her that should have killed her, but she survives somehow, and she escapes. And that's where it ends, on a cliffhanger.
Anyone else get Boy and the Beast vibes?
I never saw that movie. I heard it was really
You
good.
didn't see that one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to one day. I heard it was really good.
Yeah, it's got that whole, like, I think this is another one of those ones where you've seen a lot of stories like this. Divided family, adoptive siblings who are, like, close, but apparently when chips go down, they're not that close. The adoptive sibling being, like, chosen over the biological one. Rifts being formed one way or the other, and all that sort of stuff. I've definitely seen this story a number of times. I think it's executed well, though.
Yeah.
The animation's smooth. It's pretty nice.
I like the animation a lot in this show. Like I in this short, I really did. I thought it looked really nice. Although I did notice that, like, throughout most of these shorts, or at least a lot of the shorts, it involves, passing on a lightsaber of some kind. And I mean, granted, again, you're an anime studio, you're working on Star Wars, you're gonna use a lightsaber. It's just only natural.
Yeah, but I think that's just like a common thing in a lot of stuff. Like, even maybe not necessarily Boy and the Beast, but like there's always that, especially anytime you have a family or like a big family kind of thing, you always have the element of passing on of either a technique, a weapon, a what have you, that causes contention amongst siblings or whatever else, because it's a good source of conflict.
Yeah.
Chips, you got any thoughts on it?
Animation was cool. I mean, I kind of got the general gist of what was going on, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, all of these shorts, and, well, not all of them, but some of these, shorts, end on what happens next. But, like, this is, like, one of the only ones that truly end on, well, not all of them, but, like, this one ends on a big cliffhanger, let's put it that way. So, like, it's begging for a continuation of some kind. I probably would have wished it was, like, maybe 10 minutes longer so you could, like, develop the relationship more between Lop and Ocho, because, like, they go from literally one scene, oh, we're going to be a happy family, to cut to 10 years later where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to join the Empire now.
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, I think it's because it's a story we've seen so many times. We don't always need, like, a ton of stuff there. Again, I think simple story works best for if you're going to, like, have a very limited amount of time that you're going to be telling your story. So I think it worked here in that regard.
Alright, well then, the last short, episode 9, Akakiri. This was also done by Science Saru. It involves a Jedi named Sabuki, who he's a runner. He's a loner. He's on his own. He goes to a planet to help a princess named Misa, who he was once in some kind of relationship with. Her aunt Masago overtook her for the throne, and so she wants his help to basically reclaim the throne. And she's joined by her two, I guess, people she hired to help her out, Senchu and Kamahashi, I think that's what their name. One of them was voiced by George Takei, which I think was cool. So they eventually get there, and through a bunch of shenanigans, and a big point with Sabuki is that he has a lot of dark side visions. He sees a future where somebody he knows, eventually revealed to be Misa, dies in some horrible way. So, very parallel to Anakin from the prequels. So he goes to the palace. They find Masago, who is revealed to be a Sith. Shocker. And they fight. He gets his ass whooped. And she's like, I can sense your fear. Join me. Help me. And we can conquer the galaxy. We can rule together. And he refuses. And so she sends a whole bunch of guards after him. He's blinded by his rage and kills Misa, who was, wearing one of the guards' armor. And so he is distraught, and unlike traditional Star Wars, Masago's like, you know what, use the dark side, join me, and you can bring her back to life. And in this version, it works, and so he...
If only it were that simple, maybe we wouldn't have had as many problems with Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so Misa, is brought back to life, and she's like, what the hell's going on? And he doesn't say anything, but he's just like, it's too late. And so he joins his new master, and yeah, it's basically Anakin in a way, except, well, unlike Anakin, he saved the one he loved, but he's still joined the dark side, so it's still kind of, I guess, a cautionary tale about, emotions and getting attached and all that kind of stuff. So this was an interesting one. I mean, this definitely felt the most like a Science Saru animation. Like, I definitely got a lot of Devilman animation vibes from this one, unlike the Tubi one. I thought it was okay.
This is essentially just the Hidden Fortress from Akira Kurosawa, which was the basis for C-3PO and R2-D2. But, like, even more so now, where you have the I guess he's not a general in this one, but a warrior and a princess being guided around by two comic relief peasants who, you go to find the big battle at the end of it all, and yeah, so again, drawing from very good inspiration parts for this, I kind of saw that ending coming pretty quickly. Like, yeah, this is one of, like, that this guy is not gonna do his job right the second he's there. Like, because that's always what Star Wars has. So, like, they're keeping very much in that canon of, like, when your mind is clouded, that's when you're gonna fuck up. And he fucks up royal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get how he didn't realize all of his visions were in POV of her dying, and he didn't think to himself, I wonder if that's significant somehow.
I mean...
Jedi so good at predicting the future and always inevitably causing the future.
I mean...
you can say maybe that's more of a thematic element of it all. Like, every time they try to change their fate, they inevitably end up causing it.
I mean, that's what happened with Anakin. I mean, he had visions of Padme dying in childbirth, so it's like, okay, I gotta save Padme. I'm gonna join the dark side, kill a whole bunch of Jedi, and then that'll give me the power to save her from dying in childbirth. Genius.
Mm-hmm. That's some big brain thoughts right there. All the Jedi get them big brain thoughts. This might be why the Jedi need some level of oversight. Kind of like, not to get into the whole thing of, like, how the Jedi were always, like, set up and whatnot, but, like, it's kind of one of those, wow, you're just an organization who self-governs themselves and has so much influence on everybody else, but you don't have, like, any sort of, like, internal thing to root out bullshit every now and then, or to maybe give a secondary perspective that might be like, hey, maybe don't do that. Like,
yeah,
it's just one of those things where, like, people get a little too big sometimes, and they don't think things through.
Well, I know not in canon, but in the old Legends continuity, Luke, when he restarted the Jedi Order, he allowed for Jedi to have romantic attachments. He allowed them to get married and have kids, because he's like, yeah, obviously if you get too attached to somebody, that's bad, but, like, a Jedi are human, or they're creatures. They have feelings, and you shouldn't suppress them, because if you suppress them, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, I don't know how much this guy was actually suppressing his stuff. I mean, the dark side doesn't tend to corrupt people unless they were kind of already on their way there a little bit, which is, like, another element that we've, like, seen in different Star Wars canons and stuff like that. Like, I kind of like that they had the one guy in the Saber story, that he had a purple lightsaber after the red one.
Yeah.
Because that's like an element that you sometimes see with certain people. Like Mace Windu famously was like, he grappled with the dark side a lot and even incorporated a little bit of it into his like fighting style. And that's part of the reason he had, well, the real reason he had the purple lightsaber was because Samuel L. Jackson was like, this is going to be cool and I'm going to have it. And you know what? Tell me no. I'm Samuel L. Jackson. He's probably the only person who told George Lucas what to do on that movie. Which, cool. More people should have done it a little bit, but yeah, like, but it. You know, you could also look at it as an element of like a lot of Jedi use blue lightsabers, the Sith all use red. Right in the middle there, that's where he's kind of sitting. Like, and he was like, he kind of came there. He was like a good guy. The dude knew him, but he got corrupted in that moment, being surrounded by all the other Sith. So it's like, depending on your connection and exactly who you are, you can flip back and forth a little bit. You can sway one way or the other, or stride that line in the middle. And this guy, he had some dark side in him. It's not surprising he went to it at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, I guess that wraps things up for the individual episodes. I guess my question is, well, I guess one of my questions is, what was your favorite short and your least favorite short? My favorite short was The Village Bride, followed very closely by The Ninth Jedi, and my least favorite was probably either Tatooine Rhapsody or The Twins. So I'm interested to hear what you guys is your favorite and least favorite.
Jibby, why don't you go? I'm still mulling a few things over.
So I will say my favorite was The Duel. I mean, it was very simplistic in style and everything, but honestly, when I think Star Wars as an anime, this is honestly probably the closest thing that I could have imagined to Star Wars as an anime, and it's like the strongest opener that they could have picked for this set of shorts. My least favorite is The Twins. Studio Trigger, you could have done something else. I did not need to see a deleted scene from Kill la Kill in a Star Wars set of shorts.
In all fairness, they did do something else. They did The Elder, and you know,
did.
I think for me, it might be a bit of a toss-up between The Duel and The Elder. I think they were essentially kind of telling a bit of the same story, but in different ways, and I think I like both of them for the simplicity, the battle, kind of like craftsmanship of some of that sort of stuff. I thought they did it very well. If I had to pick a third, maybe the Saber one, the Saber Forge one. I like the building of a story kind of thing. I thought that was really, as far as ones that I would probably consider like backdoor pilots, I think that one was probably the best.
Yeah, The Ninth Jedi.
Least favorite. I feel like at this point I should just say The Twins, because everyone seems to like really not like this one, because yeah, it is just Kill la Kill. I'm trying to think of what one that I might. I mean the weakest ones to me from a Star Wars perspective were probably the ones I like the least, and I wasn't really a fan of Toby. Tatooine Rhapsody was a little whatever. And yeah, The Twins was very much like, as enjoyable as the fight was, it was like, this belongs somewhere else. This should be in a different show. I'd watch that show.
Oh yeah, no,
but it belongs in that show.
Yeah, like if that had been a scene in Kill la Kill, I'd have been like, oh yes.
Yeah.
No.
Inverting the starship and then running with your giant mile-long lightsaber to eventually shorten it to cut one little thing out of a suit of armor. Why not?
Running with a giant scissor blade. Like, think about it like
Same thing.
that.
Replace the lightsabers with scissors or your thread things for the light whips. Go for it. All very cool. But, again, put it in Kill la Kill. Or whatever your next Kill la Kill show is going to be. You know they're going to have another one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, Promare was basically insane. More insane version of Kill la Kill.
And I think that works for them. Be as insane as you want in your original properties, because that's where you shine the best.
Oh, yeah.
We have no expectations set for you. You know, we have high bars for, like, your animation stuff because you guys have put out a lot of good stuff in the past. But, like, show me whatever the hell you want in whatever world you make. I will buy all of it. But yeah, so I think one thing we haven't mentioned, we got a couple like, it's mostly in the it's mostly in the duel. I like the extra lightsaber stuff that they had going on in there. I didn't mention that before. The
Oh
lightsaber
yeah,
umbrella.
the lightsaber
Yeah,
First
that
umbrella.
was
off,
cool.
the only thing that I have a complaint about the duel is like, why would you throw the lightsaber umbrella away? That was fantastic. You want to go back to regular lightsaber right now? Why?
Because it's
You
not
had
the
a whole
honorable way
thing
to duel.
going. But even like the scabbard for the lightsaber, which like for the longest time I'm like, why the fuck do you have a scabbard? It's a lightsaber. But then he has a lightsaber blade in the scabbard. I'm like, oh, I see you, you tricky devil, you. That was pretty good. Yeah, maybe the duel was my favorite. That was, I think Chibi's right. That was definitely their best foot forward kind of deal.
I will probably
Second favorite, definitely the Elder though.
I will probably end up buying that book that's coming out next month. It's called Ronin, a Visions novel, and it's basically going to expand on that alternate universe from because I would say out of all the shorts, it was definitely the most other universe because the other shorts they either take place in some kind of era or they could eventually fit in canon, whereas
Yeah.
the duel was like completely other universe. Like it completely flips everything on its head when it comes to Star Wars. Which again, I didn't mind because it's not canon. It's doesn't matter. It's what they wanted to do. So
Quite frankly, it's Batman Ninja.
Honestly, honestly, I didn't really care that it went outside of canon.
Well, neither did I.
Quite
honest.
honest.
I don't. I mean, I'm kind of a stickler for canon, but it's like as long as you say it's non-canon, I say go for it. I may be kind of mixed with Star Wars Visions. Some I liked, some I didn't, but I like Disney taking a chance on this. I like them going outside of the box and trying something different. Granted, a lot of these shorts have a lot of very similar story elements, but again, who would have thought when Disney bought Star Wars we would get an anime at some point? Like, I want them to take more risk.
I think anyone would. They're milking it for all it's worth at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually, it's going to hit another medium.
Mm-hmm.
I just want them to try something new and try something different because, like, obviously Star Wars has been, well, stuck to the Skywalker saga for so long, and they're doing the High Republic right now, which is, 200 years before the Phantom Menace, and that's new, but, like, do something else. Like, go to other places. Take other adventures. Like, just, you don't need to worry about the main 9 films forever.
Yeah. I agree with that. And again, I was kind of saying earlier about, like, a lot of this could be, like, possible pilot material. I'd be very down to see some of these pilots again. Or, like, seeing either a sequel version and another Visions thing, or an actual, like, maybe mini-series of stuff. I think, like, some of the more Ronin-esque, the Duel or the Elder, or even the Saber stuff, the Saber Forge guy thing, I think those lend themselves very easily to series. Whether they're anthology like with Ronin, or a continuing story with like the Saberforge thing, or what have you, or kind of like maybe somewhere in the middle with the Elder. But I feel like I don't know. I know that like anytime like one person likes something, it doesn't always mean like everyone else is gonna like it. But I enjoyed these for the most part. I wouldn't mind seeing more of them. I wouldn't mind seeing like a continuing element to them if Disney decides to do it, but like I think a lot of it is going to depend on like how our general audience is going to react to this.
Yeah.
From what I've been hearing, again, this is just my limited perspective of my limited reach of social media, but from what I've been hearing, it's been going over relatively well. Obviously, some people are talking about, what's their favorite short, but for the most part, people generally are liking it for the most part.
Well, maybe that's a sign of good things, because, like, maybe sometimes all you need is, like, some different creative perspectives to really, like, make something fresh and interesting. Like, we were talking about The Mandalorian a little bit earlier. Again, those are, like, some new people who came in, who weren't, like, really involved in some of the other stuff with Star Wars, and they kind of did their own thing, and it really worked. Quite frankly, better than the entire sequel trilogy. But I mean, that's I I'd be really interested to see a lot of this again and see where people decide to take something like this.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is making me start to think like maybe I should look into those like the what ifs or the legends or whatever for the Marvel stuff as well. Because if they're doing the same, if essentially they're doing the same thing with those as they did with this, that might actually be decent to check out.
Yeah. I would love them, first off, to do a Star Wars What If show. I think that has infinite potential, but...
This is a Star Wars What If show, basically.
Yeah, but, like, specific what ifs, like what Marvel's doing. Like, if certain events in the movies happened. Like, I remember there was comics years ago.
My dude, I thought you were talking about getting away from the the Skywalker saga.
Okay, yes, but just to see, like, the crazy shit. Because I remember there was, like, comics years ago called Infinites, and they did like a what if scenario for every film in the original trilogy. Like, what if Luke didn't blow up the Death Star? What if Luke died on Hoth? Or what if Luke couldn't save Han in time? So in Return of the Jedi. So like I think that'd be interesting. But like if for Vision season 2, like obviously you had some big name anime studios, you had some smaller anime studios, and for the most part all of them did a really good job. But like, imagine if you got some of the big anime studios like Bones or Madhouse or Ufotable or Mappa to do their own shorts. Imagine what they could do with Star Wars.
I would love to see a Ufotable Star Wars. I don't want anything to happen. I just want them to set it in space and we just fly around for a little while and just look at all the pretty things. Maybe there can be a lightsaber fight. You know what? They don't need a story. Let's just give it to them real quick. See what they come up with.
So I guess then the question would be yay, nay, or meh. It's a very light yay for me, but it's still a yay.
I'm yay on some of them, a little bit nay on some others, a little bit meh in the middle. So I'm going to say just like somewhere around in the middle. Like, it's going to depend on the short, is for me. As like, there are good ones, there are not so good ones. So it's really going to be, and like, it's kind of an a la carte thing. Like, this isn't really a series, it's more of an anthology. So, I'm going to say a little bit of everything. You might find something in here you'll like if you watch it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like Al said, there were definitely some yays in there, definitely some nays, and a few mehs. I guess, like, for an overall experience with this, I would give it a meh. Like, I felt like while there were a couple of good ones that I came across while watching this, I feel like the duds and like the ones that were kind of so-so kind of like made it a underwhelming sort of viewing for me. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a meh.
Okay.
But next week we start Spooky Month. So what are we gonna watch, Al?
Let me tell you what we're gonna watch, Envy. So, Spooky Month. We have to have something special for Spooky Month, because it's Spooky Month. It's a special time of year. It's one of our favorite times of year. I don't know how anyone would go through life and not enjoy autumn, the fall season. All the best holidays are coming up. We're going to have tons of candy. We're going to have tons of wonderful specials. I quite frankly think that Halloween specials are better than, are a step ahead of Christmas specials in a lot of TV and certain things like that. But I'm digressing. Let's talk about anime that has to do with spooky, scary monsters. I'm sure you have a couple of different ideas going through your head right now. They're all wrong, because we're watching Scooby-Doo movies. Why? Because the first 4 Scooby-Doo movies that we all remember from the early 90s, where was the late 90s? It was the late 90s, early 2000s, were all animated by Mook Studios, which technically makes them anime. We will be watching, next week, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. After that, The Witch's Ghost. After that, Alien Invaders. Then, Cyber Chase. And then there's last Sunday, we're going to do a special thing for that. Don't worry about that yet. We're still working on it. In the meantime, let's start watching some fucking Scooby-Doo movies. Join us for Zombie.
Any better myself.
Join us for Zombie Island next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye!
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoy this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!